great, really happy and thankful to Henk Veto to invite us, all of us here. Our topic of this panel will be touring in Central Europe, summer festivals and more. And about this more, we will talk mainly, as I guess, as we had discussion a bit before this panel, sorry. And what I would like to say is that we represent very different countries, not only Central Europe in this main meaning what we probably have. It should be otherwise, I guess, but we have new panelists from Austria, so we will have more general perspective on Central Europe, because it's important to maybe to mark the borders of the area what we are talking about. And I think I will follow Simon's idea and will let microphone to my guests and we'll ask them to introduce themselves. Okay, so we will start from Vladimir.
Thank you. So, I'm Vladimír Potančuk. I'm from Slovakia, Bratislava, and I'm a journalist and also a radio DJ. I have a 2-hour every week show on world music in Radio FM in Bratislava. And I am also an advisor of some festivals. The main festival in our country is called Pohoda in Trenčín. It's about 20 years old, the biggest one in country, and I'm an advisor for the CEO of the festival in the field of world music. So that's all.
Hi, my name is Anna Mašátová. I'm based in Prague, Czech Republic. I do many things. I'm band manager. I work for a showcase and conference festival, Czech Music Crossroads. I also do PR and I'm music publicist.
Hello, I'm András from Transylvania, Romania, but I'm an ethnic Hungarian. I'm a lawyer, but I'm not here because of that. I'm organizing a world music festival. I think that's the reason why you invited me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Albert Hosp. I'm from Vienna, Austria. I'm actually not surprised to be in the Central Europe, Eastern Europe panel, because Vienna, as you might know, is more east than, for example, Praha. I work for Austrian Radio, and from next year on I will be artistic director of a festival. It's near the city of Vienna. It is called Glatt und Verkehrt. We couldn't think of a more complicated name, actually. Actually, it's kind of a knitting pattern, and it's a folk music expression. You dance in one direction, and it's also important to dance in the other direction. That's Glatt und Verkehrt. It takes place in a very nice surrounding in the countryside. In summer it lasts for 2 weeks, and as I said, it's co-produced by Austrian National Public Radio.
Thank you. And the first thing what I would like to mention, maybe important starting talk about touring in Central Europe, that we have different perspective on touring, of course. As we all represent the perspective of the organizers, we would like to share with you our thoughts, what we already discussed before. But of course, it's also agents and artists' perspective. And as I know who you are, I would like to ask you about your comments later after our few reflections, to make it more complete, our talk. Okay, so we represent organizers. We are from Austria, Hungary, but from Romania, Hungarian from Romania, Czech Republic, and Slovakia and Poland. Okay, and as we today agreed, the first thing what we would like to point is to not maybe reduce all this topic, touring in Central Europe, to budget problem. If it's possible, of course. And we had some idea how to do it. And the first question to all of you, how do you think, what is the starting point, what could be or should be, in your opinion, starting point of touring in Central Europe? How you look at this problem, being an organizer of the festival? Maybe we could start with you, Albert, okay? As you have microphone.
Well, as I'm just starting to be director of the festival, I worked for the festival since many years as kind of an advisor, also a link to the radio. What we always try to do is we have per day simply a kind of a theme for the festival, okay? So when we say we would like to focus on, let's say, Transylvanian fiddle music, first of all we try to make contact without knowing if we can afford the band, if we want to bring it exclusively to Austria, just if it fits into the theme. That's a very naive thing in first place, but we managed pretty well since 20 years with that. And what always is interesting is how do people from a region we want to invite a band from, people living in the area, in Vienna, in Austrian cities, would react. And that's a very interesting and also very tempting thing, because very often there's a gap between the people actually, let's say from Transylvania, living in Vienna, what kind of music they are listening to. So that's always a point of discussion before we actually say, okay, we do that. Do we want to reach the people actually living in Vienna, coming from that area? So what music would they be interested in? So that's kind of a starting point.
I think this discussion will be really interesting, because to each question we will give very, very different answers. For me, it seems that our perspectives are very, very different. And when you asked us which is a starting point, first I've been thinking, okay, we need an airport for a tour if somebody is coming from outside of the region. In my case, Mera World Music is next to the city of Cluj, Kolozsvár in German Klausenburg. And actually we don't, that is an international airport, but most of the bands who would come to Eastern Europe would come through Buapest or through Vienna. So I think a starting point from the geographical point of view would be Vienna or Buapest for those bands who come from outside of the region. If we talk from the conceptual part of the starting point, what would be a starting point? In our case, when we organize our festival, the region where we organize it is a multi-ethnic region. There are living also Hungarians and Romanians and also Romas. And because of this, we have a multilingual communication, and we also try to push these cultural agendas. We try to bring to each day a band which is well known for the Romanian and the Hungarian local community, and we try to bring some international bands from outside of the smaller region. When I mean smaller region, Romania, Hungary. And in this case, if we bring somebody from Poland, for example, then it is not that important to have that band on a tour, because it is within the region. But for example, this year we had a band from Mexico or from the United States of America. Then without a tour we couldn't afford it, and it is already a budget matter. We couldn't afford, it is not a pop festival, we cannot sell that much ticket in order to bring these bands. I'm not sure that this was the question, but these are the strings what you pulled in my head.
It helps us to introduce two perspectives. Of course, the next two perspectives of touring of the bands from Europe, from area, exactly, and from other continents, for example, what we had a talk today also. So good that you mentioned it, and we will be back to that after all answers.
I think I will even more broaden the theme, because my perspective is not really from the view of the festival organizer, but I work for the showcase, so it's a bit different. Most of the bands I work with are at the beginning of their journey, so of course I try to follow their next steps after the showcase. so I can mostly see what are they do to go abroad. Usually it's at the first, let's say for the Czech bands, usually they go first to Slovakia or Poland. I know that Czech bands usually struggle to go to Austria. There are some problems to have to get gigs in there, so maybe that could be another exchange of our points of view. But also as a publicist and maybe band manager, I can see also the other sides of it, and I can also see if the bands are prepared even to go abroad, because I think that would be another big question. If they are prepared, if they have like press releases, if they are ready to even communicate outside, if they have band managers. And I think that would be another thing in our region, because let's say Czech Republic just established the music export office very recently. It's called Soundcheck. It started in March, and the dramaturgical board, and the main topic now is also sending bands abroad in some way of exchanges with the other countries, usually from the Central Europe. But another perspective is the educative way, because there are not band managers, there are not agents, so there are not, let's say, there isn't staff to work with the bands and to help them abroad in Czech Republic. And I don't think it's not maybe in Czech Republic, but maybe Slovakia and Polish have the same problem. So maybe that's another topic as well.
My perspective will be totally different, because Pohoda is another kind of festival. It's a multi-genre festival. There is a lot of bands with rock bands, electronic stuff, hip-hop and theaters, discussions and so on. So the world music is only one part of it. There used to be times when the world music has a own stage on the festival, maybe 5-6 years ago. But now it's a different situation. There are some great bands, something like African Queens this year, or Buena Vista Social Club, which could play on the big stage, but the smaller bands, they usually play in so-called Tanečný dom, Tanzhaus Simpat. So some kind of dance house, and it's a smaller stage, but very popular because the people, they are learning to dance traditional dancing, but also a hip-hop dance or something like jazz and rock, and people are coming here all the time. So this is a good place for the world music. But there are maybe not only Pohoda, but there are two other festivals in our country, not so popular, not so famous. One is called Uprising. It takes place at the end of August, and it started like a festival of reggae music and dub and so on. And now it's broader. It takes also hip hop stuff and jungle and electronic and so on. And the newest festival is called the World Music Festival Bratislava. It was founded 2 years ago. We just started. Part of it is a showcase, and another part is concert of foreign groups, foreign gigs. So we hope that it will grow bigger next time, maybe next years.
Okay, I have my own. So more or less common points in your answers. That's great, I think, because you have a lot of different experience. But problems are the same for all of us, mainly. And other question. How do you feel? How do you think? Are we attractive as an area for the bands from other regions? Do we have enough of venues, festivals, clubs, interesting parties? How do you think?
As I said, there are these 3 festivals suitable for world music bands, but there are some small clubs in the Bratislava and other towns in the country, but it's not so typical to play for the world music bands here, maybe once a month, 2 times a year or something like that. So I think it's the country is small, and also the audience is not so big. So.
Well, if the region is attractive, I think there is an answer, because there was WOMEX in Budapest and now it's going to be in Katowice. So I hope that the Central Europe is in some way attractive. If there are enough places to play in Czech Republic, there are. The problem, of course, we all know what's the biggest problem, and those are finance. Most of the venues are not able to really get or give the bands the money they would get, I don't know, in Germany. But there are many festivals like Colors of Ostrava or, I don't know, Jazzinets in Trutnov, Color Meeting in Polička. There are lots of venues in Prague, so there are definitely possibilities. So attractive, yes, we just need more money, but it also depends on audience, because usually Czechs don't want to pay for the show, let's say, a lot. Who wants to pay a lot? Nobody. So, of course, there is also a problem to attract the audience, to get the money from them. It's harsh to say that, but it's true.
I would like to refer to the region, to my region, Transylvania. I think it's a good brand internationally, and we are lucky to organize our festival there. We are the only world music festival in Transylvania. We used to say Mera World Music, the World Music Festival of Transylvania. It sounds good. And when we started to organize our festival, we were really convinced, me and my colleague, we are folk dancers, and we somehow grown up in this folk traditional culture. We are coming from the micro-region Kalotaszeg. Maybe some of you heard about it within Transylvania, and we were convinced that Transylvania is the world star of world music, and we were really convinced that actually this is the one thing what is missing from the world, to have a world music festival in Transylvania. Now we are not that much convinced that we are that much unique as we thought, but we are pretty much convinced that that we are lucky to have this brand, and we are lucky to build our musical conception around the Transylvanian traditional music. So I think in our case, but maybe I'm wrong, but I think in our case this region has an attractive brand, and we are able to attract people from outside of Transylvania, of Romania, to our festival only because we are the World Music Festival of the region.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to start I just arrived from Vienna, sorry. Is the region interesting? I mean, I think, of course, the region is interesting. When we started the festival in '97, 20 years ago, we were more or less one of 3 festivals at that time, at the end of July, around Vienna, presenting that kind of music, let's say from Transylvanian fiddle music to Asian tabla soloists and whatever. Now, at the same 2 weeks we're producing our festival, there is at least one festival only an hour's drive away doing exactly the same thing. So obviously the area is interesting. Obviously there are musicians who want to play here. What I would like to focus is that obviously Austria and especially Vienna has a certain image in the world, which is kind of the classical thing. So when bands come to Austria and to our place, which is not in Vienna, usually some of them they send an email and ask should they do a special, more in the classical direction oriented program. And sometimes we say yes. What would that sound like? So there's a kind of it's between a cliche and the true thing, like always. And plus, is the area interesting? Well, the place we run our festival, it's an old vineyard, and we have incredible white wines. So that's a reason why many musicians actually want to come to our festival.
I would like to ask you, Andras, because your festival happening not in the city. And you told already that it can be also a starting point to think about the airport. But from other point of view, is that place not in the city, not in a huge space full of the people, it is your advantage or something what how you try to make it an advantage of exactly of this, that you are not in the city and that people has to come there, exactly there, in that place what you choose and what you decided to be world music festival, the only one world music festival in Transylvania.
It is a little bit our obsession of focusing on roots and on authenticity, and as we, the organizers, are very much connected to the traditional village culture of Kalotaszeg, this micro-region of Transylvania, for us it was obvious that something like this cannot be organized in the big city. We must bring it in the village, and we must bring the people in the village to show them what is there, because you know, when you cannot smell the smell of the animals from the neighbor, then it is not that, it is something else, it is sterile. And we think that our stage is a barn stage. We put a really great musician actually to a place where animals were kept 15 years ago. And this whole concept to put it to a barn stage, well-known, very high-quality musicians and music, it creates something special. It is a contrast. And our whole concept is built on this contrast, this local and global meeting point. And for us, it was from the beginning somehow obvious that it has to be organized in a village, and it has had also some advances how I presented it, but some backlashes too, because, for example, there is no drinkable water in the village. We cannot organize a camping in the village. Officially, it is disputable if we can organize a festival in that village. So, because simply we don't have the venue is not created for such a big event, and because of this, all the guests has to sleep at the villagers at home in their rooms and in their gardens with tents. And because we have this problem, actually, we also involve the villagers in this whole process. They make some money out of the festival. And for us, it is really important to somehow over the thing that this noise pollution, what we do in the village, to give something back. And the villagers, because this special village Mera is well known for its music and its dance, the villagers got used to the fact that a lot of music tourism is happening there, or folk tourism is happening. A lot of people go there, have fun for a night, they drink a lot, they sing a lot in the night, and they tolerate it. And because our festival is a world music style festival, it is not, they somehow tolerate it. If we would organize an electronic music festival, they wouldn't tolerate it. So the coin has two faces, and we try to somehow say that actually it is a very precious coin with those two faces.
I asked you not without reason, because we try to do almost the same with Panonica team to bring the people from the city, for example, and to bring people there exactly for 3 days. This is the best audience because they are coming just because of the music, because of the festival there. But you wanted to tell something?
I wanted to talk about your festival, so it's okay.
Thank you. So thank you. Anyway, it's one of the tactics to attract audience to the festival. Promotional audience. Of course, we do it naturally, that we choose the place where it's not in the most famous places in our countries, in our region. But it's something special to be in this kind of place. And this is one of the tactics to attract, as I told. What are other tactics? What could be other tactics to attract people to your festival in this area? Do you have some ideas?
Packages. Well, the festival I produce is right in the center of one of the most frequently visited touristic areas in all of Austria. It's the valley of the Danube. It's the Wachau, which is some kind of 1A touristic address. And still, about 90% of our audience comes from Vienna, and not one of the people coming to the Wachau would also think of, well, let's go to the festival for a concert. So we still have two audience groups. Well, maybe we have one audience group and at least two others that we have been trying to reach and not yet succeeded in. One is the people visiting the area because it's so beautiful, and the other are the people living there. It's a small town outside of Vienna, and still people living there seem there's some kind of a border, and that's why we keep doing small concerts before the main festival with free entrance, etc., etc. So we're not exactly in the need of getting people to the area. It's flooded in summer, really, not only because of the Danube. It's flooded with people.
I have impression that the audience is not regional, right? That people who comes for the festival, sometimes they choose the festival which is very far from there. And we can say exactly that they are coming from the region mainly, last times as I observe. What is your experience?
I actually think it's pretty common, especially in Czech Republic, to not really live in the city where I go to the festival. Usually the people from the city either hate it or love it, but usually people hate it because, of course, there's some trash around and loud music for a few days, so there are always some kind of clashes. I think Czechs have also, in some way, I don't know, the festival culture is pretty good because the people are keen to go anywhere, mostly to the, I don't know, into the mountains or weird cities or really small villages, take their tents and camp there for really few days or even a week. It's not only for the music festivals, but even for the film festivals. There are several film festivals linked to music as well in Czech Republic, and people still camp there and go to the movies and do the campfires. So that's also the way. And I don't know, I cannot really imagine a festival without camping. I always stay in a hotel, but the people are really very happy to go there and have their time of their life and holidays, so that's it.
I think the same thing is at Trenčín Pohoda Festival, because it's far away from capital. No, not so far away, it's reachable. It's not so far away from Czech Republic, from Austria, so we have an audience. I think that also from Poland, some people come in here. But now I'm in doubt, because if it was a good idea to make a new festival in Bratislava, maybe it was a big mistake, right in the capital city.
As we are talking about tactics, it sometimes needs a good relation, good cooperation, I would say, about the organizers of the festival. As we had really nice talk with you, Andras, today, about what is the role of this cooperation, of this networking between the festival organizer, and how it helps with these promotional tactics to attract the audience?
I'm not sure what do you expect from me to this question.
Nothing, be sure.
Yeah, we had a nice discussion today. I just came up with this idea.
Not to talk about the secrets, but in general, some reflections.
Okay, so I think in our case, if I talk like as an organizer of a festival, it helps a lot if we know what kind of other festivals are in the region in our period. Let's say we are at the end of July and we know which are the festivals before our festival, at the moment of our festival, and afterwards our festival, because then we can offer a larger scale of concerts to the bands who would come to a tour and who would like to come to our festival. Because we had this experience this year with 2 bands from America, and one of them started their tour on our festival, the band from the United States, and the Mexican one first went to Germany, after it to Buapest, to our festival, and I don't know exactly where did they go afterwards, but they had in mind to participate to a lot of musical events. And I know, for example, the American band from our festival went to Serbia afterwards. And I'm really sure that we could attract more bands if we could put them in contact with the other festival organizers, and that would help also the bands, and it would help also us when we find something what we like. We find something what can be sold to our public, and yeah, the cooperation could be really helpful. We are a new festival, so I cannot say that we have a huge experience in this. Maybe this kind of events help us to get in contact with each other, and in the future maybe we will be able to help each other in this way and to help the bands in this way.
But we talk mainly about the bands from the other continents, for example. It helps mainly to organize a trip for the bands from other regions, other areas, I guess. What you told right now, that this cooperation to recommend other festivals, other organizers, each to other. But in this more internal perspective, I mean that, for example, I'm representing Polish band, and how it can help that I know the organizers of the festival. Is it as much important as for the bands from abroad? I mean, much more far abroad than region.
Of course. I mean, of course, it's important to have a touring band, not only in my own festival, but what is really important, and every one of you knows about that, we wouldn't have to discuss it if that is important. But for example, if I have an artist from my country who comes to me with an idea of a new project, then it even is more important, because I think I can tell him, play the premiere at our festival and then go to, I don't know, folk holidays in Namest, go to Stimmen Festival, it's a vocal event. So what really networking can help is if you produce a new thing from your country. Of course you do it in your festival, but not only for financial reasons, but for distributing good ideas, spreading good ideas. That's very important.
Some of you? Okay. So could you give the example of the festival, of the events, which could be kind of benchmarks for you? I mean, that they have very good kind of promotional tactics, what we are talking about, or other things what we could follow and spread between us.
For me, it's not clear what is the question.
Okay. The benchmarks, you know, the examples of the festivals for what you should recommend, and maybe you follow the ideas, or the ideas how to organize touring around that.
So probably I will start, but I think most of you will know all these festivals I will mention. Of course, Colors of Ostrava are the biggest festival in Czech Republic at the moment, but they are like, if you just, I don't know, add to the Google Czech festivals, there are like few festivals every weekend during the summer. Of course, not all of them likes to bring world music or jazz bands, but there are still quite a lot. There are folk holidays, as it was mentioned, which is a 1 week event close to Brno, so in Moravia. There is a color meeting in Polička. There's a rock for people, sometimes also taking some world music bands. Then there are jazz festivals, but not only jazz, let's say. Like Jazzinets in Trutnov. Trutnov is a small city in the mountains. The festival is held in autumn and spring. There are Strings of Autumn in Prague, and there is also Jazz Fest Brno, a really big event with acts like Herbie Hancock and others. So there are quite many. Just check them out. Also United Islands in Prague. Actually, Prague is a bit strange because there are not so many outdoor festivals. For world music, it's a Respect Festival in June. And then there is United Islands also in June, and that's almost done. And yeah, and Strings of Autumn. And there's a small festival actually in Hradec Králové, which is a city like 1 hour from Prague, which is called Na jednom břehu, and also Pilsen, who most of you will know from the beer probably. They have like summer festival in the streets, so sometimes they also book some world music, smaller acts.
In my opinion, the Pohoda Festival is this benchmark itself. So, but it also has some limits. It's, on my opinion, it's too big for me. I feel not so comfortable. I'm preferring going there for 1 day, not for all the 3 days. It's too much for me. But there are some small festivals arising in our country. There was a small festival in a village called Šumiac. It's in the middle of the country, in a small village, something maybe something similar like Mera Festival. They have 3 or 4 issues, and also it started like a birthday party 5 years ago, and now it's maybe a middle-sized festival in our country. It's called Drienok. It's somewhere near town Martin. And it's a festival for. It started like something like for 200 people, and now this year it was a festival for maybe 5,000 or 7,000, and it's growing year by year, and maybe it will be the next challenge to Pohoda Festival. I don't know. Maybe the next challenge will be the World Music Festival Bratislava, but it's a different story because it's a festival which is held in capital, and it's not the same potential.
Actually, I forgot what I wanted to answer. Sorry.
No problem, I can repeat. So maybe you have, and tell us because of what reason, the benchmarks, I mean the festivals, would you recommend to other organizers to follow, and because of actually what reason? What is the biggest value of their approach to work, how they work, and why it's important from the point of view of the organizer of others festivals, for example, or agent, you can choose as you.
I wouldn't like to give a list because I don't have one, and maybe this could be the result, this kind of list could be the result of this conference for the future, to have a calendar with the regions festivals. I think that would be helpful for everybody. So I would recommend to make something like this. Maybe the guys from the Hangvető Balázs can hear us, and in the future we could make a calendar with the participants or things what these people organize. For example, in our case in Mira, for the first edition we had only the festival. For the second edition we already funded the Mira seasons. We organized separate concerts before and after the festival. We try to make our venue a relevant world music venue in Transylvania or in the region. I don't know, we need this kind of calendar, I'm sure of that.
Albert, you have something to say apropos?
I'm trying to think of the impact that festivals like mine, maybe like the ones you know and represent, have on the area and on the musicians that come through, that drive through, that travel through. I think what every artist remembers is the place where he actually performed. Like at the place where he would perform at our festival, as I said, it's a vineyard for about 850 people. 2 days after our festival, maybe he would perform on a small stage on a lake, which is about an hour's drive from our festival. And what impact does it have on the people coming there? I could give you about 15 names of festivals between, let's only say in July, and that's all in the east of Austria. And what we all, of course, also try to give to our audience is some kind of exclusive things. So it's a growing challenge of building up a network to be able to afford the music, but also to say, okay, you're a day after our festival, and people could actually drive 5 minutes from our place to your place. So what do we do? So what we try to do is actually, for example, invite a group of musicians, and sometimes they play in different, if they do it, of course, in different settings. So let them play 2 weeks in a row in Austria, but ask them to present maybe slightly different things. That could be one way.
Okay, so how do you think? There are some hot directions, I mean that the good conditions, some countries which are very good places to, in your opinion of course, for roots musicians. That mostly when we start to think about touring in Central Europe, we think, oh, the first country what I'm thinking about will be, or region, or country, or other direction. What do you think?
I'm not an agent, so...
No, even... Of course, we have agents on the other side, and we will ask them, as I told before, about the comments and maybe some advices. But how do you think, Anna? As you promote very good bands from Czech.
As I already said, usually when Czech bands want to go abroad, they go to Slovakia because the language is pretty similar and there are some contacts still. So it's the easiest and less expensive things to do. I think then there are some connections with Poland. Probably Dusan Sviba, who is sitting over there, could tell more about it. I think, of course, lots of the Czech bands would like to go to Austria and Germany, but usually these attempts are pretty unsuccessful. Actually, now there is a debate, why is it so, still without answer. Maybe we will get it later when the Czech Music Export Office proceeds in their work. But of course, the bands who wants to go abroad, like to Germany or Austria, there are not so many original bands, and their markets are already full. So maybe that's also the reason. So that's it. Usually Slovakia and Poland. Of course, all of the bands wants to go to UK. That's the dream of the dream, always.
Yes, and the same way in our country, the most of the Slovak bands, the nearest country is the Czech Republic, and all people understand the lyrics, all people know the musical tradition, so it's easiest way. But I wonder if there are some Slovak bands playing a lot in Hungary or Austria or in Poland. I don't know why.
So
somebody will
as
find
we have
answer.
As we have 5 minutes more, we would like, as I told in the beginning, about your questions, comments, mainly I think about the last questions what we had. So maybe you have some benchmarks, for example, in your head now, because I see a lot of promoters and agents, and maybe it will be interesting, more interesting when you will share with us your experience. Juliana? Sure.
I was actually thinking the same. That in this day and age, someone has to do. In this day and age, that to have someone have to do that job in the internet, that job can be done by the individual festivals. You just have to fill it up.
Each of the delegates could just have the venues festivals they know in their region. And then it would be very easy with some kind of common place, the same, I don't know, this squad or whatever it is.
That was kind of the secret purpose of this panel.
Oops. Oops.
I don't think that this venue festival was secret.
But you are of the opinion that it should be a region-to-region affair. What's that? I know we are discussing this region, but most of what is being discussed here in my mind always takes me back to the area in Bristol, for instance. Because we are on the outskirts of Europe, we are in Central Europe, so whenever you talk about, you say, oh, Poland and then Austria, and for us, that's. I mean, will we ever have your music in Portugal? How you understand me? Is that so far? Because you speak about bringing bands from the United States and Mexico. And I was like, I have a Portuguese band if you're looking for music from Portugal in Transylvania. I would love to.
Yeah, we would love to have some Portugal.
Thank you.
I see you, Dusan, so you was the first.
I just wanted to say that sometimes for me it sounds a little bit like knocking on an open gate. For artists, everybody knows that, everybody knows the big festivals. It's no sense to speak about them. But there are small festivals, nice festivals, which let's say I book for small festivals. I book, let's say, one big festival, and then
Okay, so networking in two directions, organizers and organizer agents, and especially organizers of the small events. Okay, someone else? Yeah?
It came to my mind that it is much more important that with this database, on every meeting there is agreement, let's do a database. And somewhere happens and then disappears. But it's quite easy, of course, to make this nowadays. I think it's more important for the festivals and the venues to work with this database than for the musicians and booking agents. Because if a band or booking agent offers a band from another region to 20 venues and festivals in one region, one or two will like it and want to take it, the rest not. It is a normal thing. And then it is questionable if they can afford to travel and to come for one concert. But if the organizers, who all know each other or have to know each other, call each other and say that I want to invite this band and you have a festival the same weekend or next weekend, do you want it? It's much more, I think it will be much more effect on this than booking agents. So this work should be done between the festivals.
If I may, in the sense, I completely agree. And in this sense, how far away should the venues be, and how far away in terms of time? So for you guys to book the same band, how far away in distance and in time should the venues and the festivals be? Otherwise you just say, no, if she has it, I don't want it. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
How far away do the venues have to be? Because when you say that you have on the same, more or less the same time, a festival 100 kilometers away or less.
Yeah.
So would that be attractive to, or you should work?
I really think it also depends on the band, in many cases.
Yes, if you can.
So if they are really flexible, then it's not a problem to have a distance of 1,000 kilometers and
But I meant in terms of the audience. If I go to see a band on your show,
then
I want to go to hers because hers is afterwards, or at a better time, or at a better day.
But guys, the thing is that finally a Czech band made it to a nice festival, actually this one. And if you are going on, you'll miss that. Because they are starting in 10 minutes. So,
you shouldn't miss them.
The festival kicks off with punk.
We can do it.
7:15. So it's a very interesting topic, but I'd really like you to not just punk and then Schenderke and not and all that stuff. But we'll have a lot of time for networking and informal talks tomorrow, the day after tomorrow as well. But
can I say just one thing? My name is Ula, is the moderator.
Yes, of course, please.
It'll be just 2 minutes next. So I represent the Finnish Institute in Nagola.
Yeah.
It's not that important. So I represent the Finnish Institute called Finnagora, and we're like a middle hand, so which is quite interesting, probably to organizers, because we can help with some fees, because we promote Finnish culture in the region. And we're actually broadening to the neighboring countries. We're in Hungary right now, but we should be broadening in a few years at least to neighboring countries. And next year we're doing jazz probably, and we're looking for synergies so that we can broaden and not just do one-off gigs, so that we can broaden to neighboring countries. So if there's anyone here who wants to speak to me and have something to propose, just drag me by my hand or something. I'll be around for maybe 10-15 minutes, then I'll go.
Okay, so I will try to gather people and go to the showcase as I'm interesting, as Anna is here, as we all should to see today's showcases. Thank you very much to panelists and to you all, and it was a pleasure. Thank you, Balázs, for inviting us.
You probably know that already, but there is kind of a bar and a separate place for delegates where you can watch the concerts from, and where you can drink together, eat together, hang around together. It's above the bigger hall. If you want to go there, but Punk is starting in the smaller hall, and then Schönberger is starting in the bigger hall with Amsterdam Klezmer Band in half an hour.